And we are live on another edition of the K and K Sports Show. Mr. Valenti, Mr. Carson Shear, Mr. Rosen, and Mr. Kirkpatrick. The whole crew is back. College football preview show. Listen, I'm going to get right to my opening statement. I got three things to say, boys. Number one, October 22nd, Tuesday night, the New York Knicks at the Boston Celtics. Let's just play the best versus the best. And then that Friday night, that's the 25th. Tickets aren't on sale. I told Jen, there's no limit to how much we're paying. Opening night at the Garden, that blank bag, the mascot, Tyrese Halliburton and those Pacers. Opening night at the Garden, me and Jen are in. I don't care how much it is. I've never been to opening night. I'm in. And third thing, it's bow time. We got our franchise guy. I'll talk about it at 10 because I don't want to waste your time. But what a week. What a day. Bronco fans, it happened. Let's go. Mr. Carson Shear.
What's up, guys? How we doing? Ready to rock and roll? Yeah, we got a good college football show for you guys. First game kicking off this Saturday, and then NFL is right around the corner. And I'll be rooting for the Knicks this year, and hopefully the Pistons don't have the worst record again.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, I'm going to you.
Well, thank you for going to me. Carson, thank you for mentioning college football. Kurt, in his opening statement, mentioned nothing about his team, Auburn, but he's going to be first up, so we're going to put him right on the spot with his Auburn Tigers and his Bo Nix, who started his career at Auburn.
Yes, he did.
Coincidentally. So, hey, good
so did Jarrett
Broncos.
Stidham, for that matter.
Jarrett Stidham, too. Kurt's got the Auburn Tiger quarterback room over there. So, anyway, good luck to Carson, your Lions, NFL around the corner. Hey, maybe we'll have our fun with our Knicks, Kurt, Paul, and we'll pass the torch to Carson this year for a Super Bowl for the Lions.
There you go.
And we'll get the NBA championship we've been waiting for NBA. But let's go. We got a fun college football preview show ahead of us. Carson nailed it. Starts Saturday. We'll get into that and pass the ball back to you, Kurt. And,
no. Mr. Rosen didn't speak.
That's right.
Jeez, boy, oh boy. That's what you guys think of me.
Not me, Paul. Not me. That's him.
I'll tell you, I would have worn my Notre Dame jacket, but I thought we were talking about college football, but I would have worn my Knicks shirt if I knew we were talking about NBA. Anyway, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. I'm looking forward to a college football preview show. It should be exciting. It should be good. And can't wait to hear what Mr. Valenti has to say about his Auburn Tigers. So I'll pass the ball back to you, Kenny, and let's go.
Real quick, you know how I always do a quick hitter with Kenny, like doing something funny? I got to tell you a 30-second story. Last night, we do a fantasy football lottery, right? We're going to pick out the names of who's going 1 through 10. So everything's going nice and smooth. Kenny says, Kurt, write down, okay, Carson's team's number 1, Jen's number 2, Kurt's number 3, smooth. Kenny starts picking out of a hat. Boom. Okay, he gets all the way down to number 1.
I got these little bingo balls.
So now, so teams 10 through 2 are done, and number 1 is Kenny, right? Because Kenny's team is just saying number 8. So he gets out and he says, live on air, not live on air, but we're doing a stream. He looks out and he says, all right, Kenny. Oh, he goes, I guess I win. This ball's going to say number 8. He picks it out and he says, sorry, it's number 6. Everything got screwed up.
Oh, no.
There we go. Luckily, it was him and the number 4 person, which was Kevin Verrilli. So he went from 1 to 4. But isn't that just Kenny to read the number wrong? And that's the whole draft.
Believe me, I'll be getting bigger ping pong balls for the next draft we have. And
I could see if it was 6.
A little bigger. The 6 and 8 got
6 and 9. 6 and 9 could have been a problem.
The paint started to wear away on the 8, so it looked like a 6. But thank goodness it was my team, and we flip-flopped 1 and 4. Yeah. So Kevin has pick 1, I have pick 4. But yeah, it was funny for sure. Kurt, let me get into a couple of the comments, and then we'll get into the show.
All right, comments from one part of the best Bronco show around, the Denver Bronco Roundup. Keith Brugman, Jody Moncrief, Albert Knoppers, and Trevor Salzman. And there's the man, Keith Brugman. I'm here to watch Kurt, Kenny, Paul, and Carson, better known as the very best, the K&K Sports Show. And
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Jody Moncrief. Paul, our Irish have a real chance at a natty. Let's go. Bo Nick.
Go Irish.
And then Keith is saying Kenny's ping pong balls or tennis balls.
Yeah, softballs. For sure. All right, boys, I'm ready. We're good. Let's start. We'll start with Kurt. He's the SEC guy. For those who don't know, Kurt's an Auburn fan. So we're each fans of a different college team. So we're gonna do like a 1 to 2 minute preview on our team, a rundown of our team, what we're expecting, and then I got some fun questions for each of you guys regarding the SEC. So Kurt, floor is yours for SEC Auburn Tigers, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited about this team. I'll be realistic. I don't think this team this year is a championship contender, even a playoff contender. But I'm going to say this: I firmly believe this team will beat a big time team this year. Here's the problem. I think this team can beat anybody on their schedule, but I also think this team can lose to anybody in the SEC, if that makes any sense, right? I don't think they're complete. I think that Hugh Freeze, though, has done an unbelievable job of bringing in talent, whether it's the transfer portal, flipping kids. He's flipping a lot of kids that were committed to Alabama now, and they're coming to Auburn. And for the next couple years, if you do that and you get, he's even getting some kids from Georgia flipping over. And that's what Hugh Freeze did when he was at Ole Miss, right? I mean, he did have the #1 recruiting class in the country one year. Now, I don't know how he did it. I mean, it's a little questionable of if he got in trouble doing it, but hey, that's what Hugh Freeze does, is he brings talent in. Question, and Carson, you can answer this, right? Because, hey, their QB1 is your boy from Michigan State.
Yep,
okay.
Peyton
Thorne. Now, he last year, early on, he looked good, but then later on in the year, you saw some of his weaknesses. The thing I like is they have a stud freshman quarterback, Walker White. And I mean, big, strong, and he's not going to start because Thorne's the starter, but I don't know if he'll get some time this year. But for the future, this kid is a legit stud NFL prospect that Freeze did recruit. They're going to have a great...
Kurt, can I just quickly interject about a quarterback?
Sure.
You guys, Notre Dame had a quarterback that committed to them, Deuce Knight, who was one of the top quarterbacks coming in for 2025. And you guys, I believe, flipped him, and he's going to go to Auburn. So yep. He's considered one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks coming in the class of 2025. And that was a great pickup by you guys.
And again, Paul, like you're saying, this is a Hugh Freeze thing, right? I mean, he's flipping a lot of kids, and whether it's Notre Dame and Alabama, anytime he flips an Alabama kid, it's like a double whammy, right? You keep them away from him and you get them here. But Jaquez Hunter is back, one of the best backs in the SEC, one of the best backs in the country. But their wide receiver group last year was probably one of the worst in the country. You were like, and that might be why when you look at Thorne and you're like, he has nobody to throw to. These guys can't open. That all changes. He got 3 stud freshmen led by Cam Coleman. Carson, the kid Lambert Smith, transferred in from Penn State. Penn State's one of the best receivers coming in. So a lot of more weapons there. Auburn's always going to play good defense. And like I said, I mean, their schedule is tough, right? I mean, now you add Oklahoma, right? You add Texas. You're adding these teams into the SEC. This year, they got to go to Georgia. They got to go to Alabama. So it's going to be tough, but I'm telling you, they're going to have it. And Kenny, we were watching the game last year when they almost knocked off Alabama, right? And I said, they're going to be this close, right? They're going to, and you know what? This year, they're going to do it. I'm not going to put them in the playoffs this year just because, like I said, It's too tough. It's a lot of teams in the SEC. Would I be shocked if they're on the borderline of being a playoff team? No. I'm going to say they're not going to go to the playoffs this year, but starting next year, I think they're going to be contenders for the SEC, for national championship. He's building and he's just recruiting like top 4 and 5-star kids back to Auburn. So the future is very bright. They're going to be good this year. And like I said, you're going to see them beat a team or two like, oh my God, they won. And then it's going to be like, oh my God, they lost to them. So, they'll get a bowl, I think a nice bowl. I'm not going to say playoff. I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm not going to say playoff right now.
All right, Paul, Kurt, I'm going to do the comments. I'm going to give you the night off for the most part because I'm going to be, hosting this.
Okay.
So, Trevor, a good friend Trevor from the Denver Bronco Roundup, part of the fearsome foursome over there. Bow time in Denver. I see Kurt rocking the Knicks jersey. Can't wait for our fantasy draft, fellas. Have a great show, boys.
Thanks,
up, Trevor? Miss Pearl Heater saying hi. All so exciting for Bo and Tim Patrick. Miss Pearl, Kurt's doing his Broncos show 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain. I should say Kurt and Jen doing their Broncos show. I know you're always a big part of that, so sure you'll be tuning in over there. And Jody's saying about the kid from Notre Dame, Paul. He hasn't flipped officially yet. But if he does, Paul, we have CJ Carr.
Yeah, I know.
Kurt, rapid fire, floor and ceiling for you said this year. For this year, ceiling and floor for the Auburn rapid fire.
Listen, ceiling would be, again, any way to get to a college football playoff. 3 losses, maybe. Again, does that get you in? I mean, it has to be impressive wins. Like you'd have to probably beat, 3 top 12 teams to have a shot at that. I think 3 losses would be their top. Their bottom, listen, I mean, 5 wins, I mean, I don't see it. I don't. I think they're definitely above 500. I think it's going to be more than that. But I would be shocked if anything under 500, Kenny, I'm going to say is a disappointment for this team. Okay. Anything under 500.
Fair enough. All right, I got some quick hitters for everybody else. Paul, you're up first. Paul, Texas and Oklahoma added to the SEC this year. What, in your opinion, will be the best new rivalry added to the SEC this year? And for the future?
I think anybody that's going to play Alabama and Georgia and those 2 teams, I mean, they'll set the bar now for Oklahoma and Texas, and whenever they have to play Alabama and Georgia, I mean, that sets up a whole brand new rivalry that will now go forward. So those 4 college teams will continue to be great because of recruitment. There's no sense that there's ever going to be a stop, in at least in the short term. So those 4 teams are going to set rivalries now for the next 50, 60 years.
Fair enough. Mark's saying good evening. I like a Texas-Alabama rivalry. They played each other the last 2 seasons. I could see that one becoming a big one for the future of the SEC football. Carson, for you, I got this one is in regards to Texas and Oklahoma. Okay. Will either or both teams struggle to find their way through the SEC competition going forward?
I think it might take some time to getting used to with the different states they're going to have to travel to for different games as the seasons go on. But I guess, Oklahoma and Texas have always been powerhouses in college football. So I don't see a long-term problem, but it might take a year or 2 for them to get acclimated to the different time changes in different states where they're going to be playing at. But I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay, fair enough. I think year 1 they might struggle a little bit. Oklahoma, a lot of new better competition, and Texas being ranked 4 to get into the SEC. They got a tough schedule as well. Trevor's saying, guys, almost Colorado Buffaloes football time. Deion Sanders, he's saying, excuse me one second here, got a little pop. Pressures on Sanders to deliver to at least get a bowl game. We're going to get into Big 12 in a couple minutes. Kurt, I got a fun one for you because you're the SEC guy, and I'm going to do this question at the end with everybody else in different conferences. Are these coaches on the hot seat, Kurt? Florida's Billy Napier, ranked 35.
Yes.
What does he have to do to save his job? Well, actually, I got a question at the end. You just give me yes or no's for these. Arkansas Sam Pittman, ranked 46. Razorbacks.
Yes.
Okay. Mark Stoops, Kentucky, ranked 38.
No.
Oklahoma's Brent Venables, ranked 17.
I mean, personally, no, because I like him, but I think yes, because I think Oklahoma fans are going to expect to just go in there and start competing for national titles.
I got two more. South Carolina's Shane Beamer, ranked 40.
No.
Tennessee's Josh Heupel, ranked 13.
Yes. Because again, I think they're unrealistic. Like I think they think they should be with Georgia and Alabama and all those schools. So yes.
All right. And my follow-up question, and then if you guys want to add anything, we got a Carson's Corner coming up. I jumped ahead of Carson. Carson's got a good question coming up. Kurt, any of those schools that I mentioned, do they have a chance to take the next step forward? So a team like South Carolina that didn't make a bowl game, do they get to a good bowl? Or does a team like a Tennessee or an Oklahoma have a shot at the playoffs here?
I'm going to say Oklahoma because I really do like Venables. You know, I think that the first year when he came in, right, it really wasn't his kids. And Oklahoma never had an offense because of that fraud. What's his name that was there? Lincoln Riley. So he just gave him an absolute mess of a defense. He never recruited. It was just a disaster. So that had to take him time to fix that. You've seen bits and pieces of him fixing it. So I'm going to say that Oklahoma with Venables can become more of a and you know what? They better, because you're not playing I'm going to beat you 72-70 in this conference. You better have a defense. So I'm going to say Oklahoma.
Jody thinks Tennessee can because their quarterback is really good. He thinks Tennessee can take the next step forward. All right, guys, that's going to be my SEC questions for you guys, quick hitters. I'm going to pass it off to Carson. He has a Carson's Corner regarding the SEC, so I'm going to pass it off to him.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. This story has been very interesting this past offseason leading up to college football, and I wanted to get your guys in the chat's opinion on this because the chat might have heard of this story as well, revolving Arkansas. Very, very interesting story. The guy's name's Monte Harrison. He's a 29-year-old walk-on freshman wide receiver at the University of Arkansas, okay? So basically in 2015, he originally committed to go to Nebraska, was a stud in high school, got a ton of offers by a bunch of Division I colleges, but never really played at Nebraska. And then during his freshman campaign, he was also really good at baseball. So he went into baseball, did that instead, put college on hold, got picked up by a couple of teams, made his way around the farm system in the minors. He played a couple years with the Marlins from 2020 to 2022, took a couple years off. And he's like, you know what? I want to go back to school. I want to get my degree. And he decided to say, you know what? I think I can still play college football. So he's a walk-on now at the University of Arkansas. He's 29 years old. It's the oldest ever freshman in college football history. I know college football has changed crazy ever since NIL, since the transfer portal, all these new rules popping up. So my question to you guys is, do you have a problem with a 29-year-old walk-on freshman, or do you think it's kind of a cool story? Hey, he's going back to school. Let's give him a chance, even though that he's literally 7, 8, 9 years older than some of these college players. Some of them even 10 years older than some of these college wide receivers, and arguably could be taking a roster spot from one of the younger guys. I'm kind of right in the middle with it. I think it's really cool that he is, pursuing his dream. He wanted to originally play college football, win a different path. He's coming back to school. Health concerns concerns. A 29-year-old freshman, by the time he's done, if he still plays 4 years of college football, he'd be 33 years old. So that's going to be kind of closing out the end of his prime, really, with his age. Maybe possibly goes to the NFL. But I don't really have a problem with this. I think it's kind of a cool story. Let the kid play if he's good enough, play. But at the same time, 10 years older than some of these kids that he's beating out of a roster spot on the team. So I'm going to ask you guys have a problem with a 29-year-old walk-on freshman? And feel free to answer in the chat as well, guys. But it's a really fascinating story. We haven't really seen anything like it. I'm going to go to Paul first. Paul, do you have a problem with this, yes or no, and why?
No, I have absolutely no problem with this kid attempting a comeback playing football at 29. Yeah, I mean, we think of that as being old in sports, but you know what? I know when I was playing, and especially when I got into running, the older I got, the more I learned how to take care of myself, how to feel and get better in terms of injuries and things like that. And I think at someone who's 29, he's going to have a better sense of who he is as opposed to maybe an 18 or 19-year-old freshman just coming out of high school and going into college. I think he'll have a little more experience in terms of life experience. I think he'll also have a sense of who he is. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the number one wide receiver for Arkansas, but even if he comes in as the third or fourth wide receiver and partakes in half a dozen plays throughout the games, I think just doing that. I mean, I'm thinking about some of the other athletes who've gone from like other sports to football or vice versa, the Bo Jacksons, the Deion Sanders, Tim Tebow went from football to baseball. Hell, even Michael Jordan, and he was a little older when he attempted baseball. So if this kid is a good enough athlete to do this, hey, more power to him. I think he should be given every opportunity to do this. And if he can beat out somebody, hey, all the best to him.
Fair enough. Kenny, what is your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, let me get Keith's and Mark's and Jody's comments in there because they answered. So let's get theirs. Keith saying, "That's it. I'm walking on, boys." In all seriousness, if the team puts the best players out there, he has no issue. Jody wants to put QR codes on the back of their jerseys.
Yeah.
and Mark stole a little of my thunder. Chris Wenke out of Florida State, quarterback in 27 or 28, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Carson, went on to play for the Carolina Panthers. I'm not sure if he went anywhere else, Kurt. Would he play anywhere else, or was it just Carolina? But he ended up playing for Carolina. So stole a little of my thunder there. And Keith's also saying, open it all up. If a high schooler has the tools, let him go pro. I like the college, let them get a couple years of college in, Keith. But I think, Carson, like Mark said, Chris Wenke out of Florida State made it on. There's a movie out there, comedy, Necessary Roughness. Sinbad's in it, and Scott Bakula, who played in Quantum Leap and I think NCIS New Orleans. He plays the quarterback who was around 30 years old, went on to play for this team that was terrible. It was a comedy, but I have no issues. Like Paul said, 29-year-old, if he's a walk-on, this is where I'm torn. I don't want to give a scholarship to a 29-year-old where you're taking away a scholarship from a kid coming right out of high school. So if it's a walk-on and he makes the team, I have no issues with it. If they're giving scholarships to 28, 29-year-olds, then I got a little issue with it, because you're taking those scholarships away from 19 and 20-year-olds. So I'm a little torn in the middle, Carson, like you are, both sides there, but that's my reasons. And like Mark said, Chris Wenke, 27, 28, made it to the pros, and was drafted. So a little of both there for me. And Oklahoma's got the QR codes on the back of their jerseys, Jody's saying.
Kurt, your thoughts on this whole story?
I think, you know what? It sounds like doesn't it sound like Thornton Mellon from Back to School? Remember when he went with the swimming team? He didn't care. He didn't care. No, you know what? Honestly, like I don't have a problem with it. I mean, he's not doing anything wrong, right? And you know, as long as I think Jody said it in the chat, or Keith said it in the chat, as long as like they're not just doing it for publicity and like making a play, but if he's one of the best players and he deserves to be on the field, listen, he has his eligibility, right? So I don't have a problem at all with it, Carson, at all.
Mm-hmm.
I like this comment from Pearl. She's saying he might get a bunch of NIL money, Carson.
Yeah.
And then Keith also making me laugh here. He goes, I'm putting my Venmo on my jersey. I'm a 40-plus-year-old walk-on.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, I thought that was kind of interesting. It's been kind of buzzing around social media. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, if he can have a breakout year, you know, maybe catch a couple touchdowns, make a name for himself. But yeah, like I said, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm more so happy for him. Nothing wrong with it. And like I said, like Jody was saying, you know, put the best product out in the field. If he beats out the other guys for the spot, then props to him. So that's kind of my thoughts on the whole situation. I thought that was fun to bring up on the show tonight.
Great story, Carson.
Good.
Great job.
Thank you, Carson.
Yeah.
We're going to pass it right back to you, Carson, because it's time for Big Ten talk.
Nice.
And you're our Big Ten guy. You're Michigan State alum. So give us your thoughts on Michigan State this year. I know they're not expected to be at top of the league, but still like your thoughts on Michigan State this year.
Yeah, lots of new faces this year. Basically, new head coach, Mel Tucker, no more. We got Jonathan Smith coming in over from Oregon State. He's bringing his quarterback, Aiden Childs, over. So he's going to be our go-to guy in this offense this year. A bunch of coaching staff now on the Spartan roster. I think, again, it's so early to tell. You know, I think Vegas has us at over 5.5 wins. So basically, are they saying, are we going to get to a bowl game? Yes or no? I would love to see the Spartans back in a bowl game. The program's been kind of wishy-washy the past 1-2 seasons. You know, ever since Kenneth Walker left, it hasn't really been the same. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Again, I think, like you were saying, you know, maybe a bowl game would be cool to see. I don't think this team is nowhere near close to college football playoff material yet. I think the goal for Jonathan Smith, though, is to get the Spartans to a bowl game. If he can win a bowl game, great. And then with the new college football playoff expanding to 12 teams, I would say probably by year 3, year 4 is when we are competing for one of the spots in the 12-team playoff.
Mark's defending champs, Low Keys. Let's go Michigan and return the belt. Burnell saying hello as well. So got some Michigan fans out there. Carson, ceiling, would it be playoffs for Michigan State, or you just don't see?
Yeah, I would
not
love
playoffs,
to say
not playoffs. I'm sorry, not playoffs. Bowl game.
Yeah, but I think I would say the ceiling is probably 8 wins, and I think the floor is about maybe 4 wins is the floor. And then I expect somewhere in between 4 to 8 wins. And I think if we get a bowl game, we win a bowl game, I'm pretty happy with that season.
Like it. Thanks, Carson, for breaking down Michigan State. Kurt, question from Jody. Do you think Prime is an elite head coach?
I think, you know what I think he's like? I'm comparing him right now to John Calipari. He's an elite recruiter, right? So as a coach, though, listen, there's a lot of pressure on him. And I saw somebody in a comment before said, watch, he's going to bolt. I don't know if he's dedicated and locked into staying at Colorado. You know, I could see him wanting to watch the sun, getting wooed by a big school. I'm going to say he's not an elite head coach. He's an elite recruiter and transfer portal and like that. But as a head coach, I mean, he better win games this year. Now there's no BS. These are all his kids now. So I don't want to hear him starting to say, you know, you can't do this. These are his kids. So if he can't win with his kids, I mean, that's on him now.
Yeah. And Pearl's saying time will tell, but he really pumps up his players. So, you know, he's one of those motivators as well as, you know, recruiter. Now he needs to show it on the field as a head coach. So agree.
I may get some blasphemy sent my way, but I think God will tell him where to go in his next head coaching job.
All right, Paul, I got a question for you. I'm going to throw some quick hitters out at you guys. Paul, with the additions of USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, is the Big Ten now the best conference in football, in college football?
I don't think so. I looked at the preseason rankings. I think there are 9 teams in the SEC that are ranked in the top 25. I think Big Ten has 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 or 5. So even with those additions, and obviously Oregon is excellent, and USC is ranked top 25, but SEC is still by far and away, in my opinion, the best conference.
Well said. Kurt, which of the 4 new schools, 2024 only, this upcoming season, which one of those 4 is going to struggle the most?
So you said Oregon? Give them to me again.
Oregon, then you got USC, UCLA, and Washington.
USC.
Mhm.
I mean, you're going into you have a coach who wants to play no defense and he don't care about defense, and you're going into a defensive conference where they're going to run the ball, line up, and just you're going to play teams like Wisconsin. They might run the ball 60 times down your throat. What are they going to do? This is not. I'm going to say this. I don't think he's coaching the team next year. That's my prediction. So I'm saying USC.
I like it, Kurt.
And they got to go in the cold too, right? They got to go in a lot of cold weather games later on during the year. I don't like USC.
I like that one, Kurt. I got a 2-parter for. I'm gonna throw it to all you guys, but I'm gonna get Carson's thoughts, and then I just want to know the second part. For Paul and Kurt. Carson, how much will the departure of Jim Harbaugh affect Michigan's season this year? And do they make the playoffs?
Oh, wow. I think it'll affect it a lot. That's a huge loss for Harbaugh. As much slander as me as a Spartan gives him, he was a great coach for the University of Michigan. Again, who knows what you want to say and do and will about, he cheated. Yeah, he stole signs. That's still an ongoing investigation, whatever happens with that. He did win a national championship with Michigan. He has a couple Big Ten championships. So again, I think head coach is a lot in college football. That's your recruiter. That's the guy that's in charge. We'll see what happens with their new coach, the assistant that's now their head coach. But I think that's a big loss for Michigan. But 12 teams in that conference, I could see them getting 10, 11, 12 and barely making the playoffs. So I could see it, yeah.
Okay. Paul, do they make the playoffs, Michigan?
I think they're going to take a step down. I do. I think this is going to be the year they're going to sort of reload. And to answer quickly your question, they won 3 games without Harbaugh when he was suspended last year. I think it's the 15 or 16 players like J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum and all those other guys on the offensive line that they lost that's going to affect them more than anything else. So I think if they do, they'll just barely make it by the skin of their teeth. But I'll leave it at that at this point.
And Kurt, I'm going to get your answer on this one too. Do they make the playoffs? You're a big Harbaugh guy, or you're just a big Michigan guy this year?
No. They're still going to be good, but again, you can't expect them to do what they did last year, right? So, and 12 teams does sound like a lot, right? But now, you're talking about how many SEC teams, right? 2 SEC teams aren't going to make the team, right? So I'm going to say no. I think they'll still be good, but I don't know if they beat Ohio State this year, Oregon. I'm going to say no.
Jody and Mark on UCLA, 3 to 4 games they're going to win. That's going to be the struggling team. Jody wants to know, for a question for you, Kurt, how long till college football gets rid of the NCAA?
I think soon. I do. I think it's going to happen soon. And you know what? They should, right? Everybody laughed at like the whole what was it? The Live tournament with the golf and all that stuff, right? With the PGA Tour. And you know what? When you really look at like what those guys were taking, like that PGA Tour, the president, all those people, and the golfers are making no money and stuff like that. Isn't that really what NCAA? Let me ask something. Why do they need the NCAA? For what? What does college basketball need? They don't need the NCAA. What, to say they have the NCAA tournament? Make your own tournament.
Just the
Like,
name. It's just the
it's
letters.
a
That's
name.
all it is.
Yeah, it's a name.
the
They can
letters.
do whatever they want, right? Like I'm gonna say soon.
Okay.
I'm within 3 years. I think I'm telling you, that's my prediction.
Good. Carson, I got the coaches for you, and then we'll move to the ACC.
Okay.
There's some good ones I got on this list, so there's a few. I'm going to start with Illinois' Bert Bellama, 18 and 19 in 3 seasons. They're ranked number 60 over there at Illinois.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's turned that program around a little bit. They put him in the right direction. A couple NFL prospects in the draft the past couple years. With Kirby Joseph on the Lions, he came from Illinois. So I think he's done a lot. I mean, Illinois is Illinois. They're not really a college football school, that they were 20, 30 years ago. But I think he's fine. I wouldn't say on the hot seat.
Okay. Next one down here in my neck of the woods, Maryland's Mike Loxley, 29 and 33, 6 seasons. They're ranked 49, so they're not expected high expectations this year.
Yeah. Maryland's a tricky one. Again, it's similar to Illinois. It's like, they got their runs every now and then to get to a bowl game. I think their expectations is a bowl game or bust for them. I don't really see them getting a New Year's Six bowl game, let alone the playoff. So again, if he can keep the team competent and 500 or above, he should be fine in Maryland.
Now I get to the better ones here. Start with Minnesota's PJ Fleck, 50 and 74 in 7 seasons. Struggling the last couple of years, in my opinion. They're ranked 55 this year in the Big Ten.
I think a little bit of concern for PJ Fleck. I think he had that magical run with Western Michigan. Then he went to Minnesota. That's a big name. They're paying him a lot of money to be at Minnesota. So I think again, you're looking at compete well in the Big Ten, and I think eight wins. You got to get to 8-4 if I'm Minnesota. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat.
Couple more for you, Carson. Nebraska's Matt Rule, 5 and 7, first season. High expectations over there. They're ranked outside the 25, ranked 33.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule's got to get it done this year. Struggled last year. They've had so many unbelievably have had so many close losses year after year by less than 5 points or less. But again, with the transfer portal and everything re-changing college football, Matt Rule, go get a couple studs, go spend some money and try to creep your way back into the in the playoffs and become the powerhouse you guys used to be.
2 more for you. James Franklin, Penn State, 88 and 39 in 10 seasons, but hasn't won the big one. They're ranked number 8.
Yeah, Penn State, I would consider them a powerhouse in the Big Ten. They seem to hold their ground and do well every single year, 9-10 wins. And then when push comes to shove, when the big game's on the line, they just can't execute. So I think it's a big year for James Franklin. I think if he doesn't get to the playoff this year, I think he's on the hot seat for sure.
Last one for you. Ryan Day. They're ranked number 2. They struggle this year. Could he be on the hot seat?
Yeah, I think he and Harbaugh, I think, are similar because Ryan Day had no problem beating Harbaugh, and then Harbaugh was on the seat. Oh, he's got to beat Ohio State. He's got to beat Ohio State. Well, now Michigan's beaten Ohio State the last 2 years. So I think it's kind of a similar situation. I think Ohio State, they're an absolute loaded roster and squad this year. I would say probably you got to get to probably the semifinals of the college football playoff to be satisfied. But if they win the Big Ten championship, I would be shocked if they let Ryan Day go. So I think he's fine regardless.
Well said, Carson. That's anything else Big Ten, guys? All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. Before we get into the final 2 conferences, we got an independent fan out there, and that's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And going to get Paul's thoughts on his Irish this year, and then I got a short, tiny little discussion for everybody.
All right. Thanks, Kenny. Hey, this is the year I think Notre Dame is going to make a serious dent in the playoffs. I mean, you guys may laugh, but based on the schedule that they have, which is ridiculously, in my opinion, ridiculously easy, and Jody could agree or disagree, the hardest game may be down in College Station, and next weekend against the Aggies. But after that, Most of their games are going to be home. Florida State, they play at home. By the time they get to USC, and we just discussed USC, they may not even have a decent team. USC, they could be 10-1 or 11-0. That's how good I think this team can be. 2 road games are against Navy and Army. Army at Yankee Stadium and Navy at the Meadowlands, and that's considered a road game. So most of the crowd will be rooting for the Irish. They went back to the ACC, and last year they picked Sam Hartman as quarterback, and they went back again and went to Duke and picked Riley Leonard to be the quarterback again. And I think he gives them not just a good passer, but certainly a much, much better weapon with his feet and being able to run. They lost most of the offensive line. Joe Walt, of course, and Blake Fisher, they're 2 great tackles, went to the NFL. But that's the one soft spot, possibly, their offensive line. So until that gels, they may have some issues. But the running game is unbelievable. They bring back Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, 2 big, fast guys. Their receivers, you don't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Malik Neighbors, but the sum of the parts is better. They picked up from Clemson Bo Collins, who was very good at Clemson, but they have a number of other guys on offense at wide receiver, and Mitchell Evans at tight end is another guy that's tight end with Notre Dame. So their passing game should be really good. I think where they're going to win a lot of the games is on defense, because right now I think they have one of the best defenses right from the front line all the way to the back. Howard Cross III, us Giant fans know him because his father played with the Giants, great tight end for 14 years, and he's an All-American, as is Riley Mills, who was named captain, and he's a senior. At linebacker, Jack Kaiser, who's been there, he's also a senior, as is Jalen Sneed. And in the defensive secondary, 2 All-American studs and probably 2 high draft picks. Xavier Watts, who won the Nagurski Award, is the top defensive player, and remember the name Benjamin Morrison, who's going to be one of the top 10, 15 players drafted next year as defensive back. So the team is loaded on defense, like Kurt was talking about with Hugh Freeze. Marcus Freeman has been able to use the transfer portal, flipping guys and going in and getting key players for the team. I really think they can win 10, 11 games, if not sweep, depending on what they do opening game. And I can see them maybe making a deep run into the playoffs. I really do. So if all things break even, I think they're going to have a legitimate chance to maybe get deep into the playoffs this year.
All right, fellas, I'm going to read a couple of Jody's comments, and then Kurt, Carson, I think you guys are going to – Paul might not like this discussion too much, and Jody might not. But I think Kurt's definitely going to like it, and I think Carson might like it too.
All right, here we go. Take a shot.
USC's trying to get out of playing Notre Dame. Quick hitter from Jody, Kurt. Will Arch Manning play at all this year?
Yes.
Rapid fire. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Jody's saying 5-star Cam Williams is going to be good. Question from Keith. Who is on the hot seat as a coach entering the season, Kurt? Is it Billy Napier, Florida, Carson, Franklin, Penn State? Who would you put hot seat, guys?
Okay, Carson.
James Franklin, for sure.
Me too. Who does he ever win? That's big game.
Penn State coach is a good one, guys. And then would Belichick consider coaching college football, Paul?
Boy, I guess you never say never. I mean, look at Nick Saban. He went to the NFL and then went back and had that great run, obviously, with Alabama. So I guess,
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you never say never, but if nothing ever materializes and he really has that itch, I mean, obviously, both Belichick and Saban were very close. So hey, you never know.
Well, I think the only school it would be like a Penn State. He wouldn't go to a team that doesn't have a chance of winning a championship. So Franklin gets fired, you might be looking at Belichick as a possibility. That's a one to look forward to in the future there, Keith, for sure. All right, my discussion, guys, and I'm looking at the time, Kurt. We're 45 minutes in, so I'll do this quick, and then ACC Big 12 we'll do a little faster as well. So Paul mentioned powerhouse team, and yeah, on paper they look like they have a powerhouse team. But guys, and I'll start with Carson. We'll start this discussion. Should Notre Dame and other independents, and I think we've talked about this before,
Yes,
be
we have.
eligible for the college football playoffs without playing in a title game or conference play, and also playing one less game than the conferences? The conferences are playing 13 games as opposed to the independents playing 12.
I'm in the middle with this. I think that when push comes to shove, when the game's on the line and you make the playoffs, you better win, because if you get smoked in the playoffs, a lot of people are going to say it was because of the lack of the strength of schedule. But if you handle your business in the regular season, Paul, you make the playoffs, you win a couple games in the playoffs, you get to the semifinals, I think you earn your spot. So I think it all comes down to they just can't get blown out in the playoffs. They got to earn their keep, and I think they will. You could say, yeah, a little bit of an easier schedule compared to some of these conference teams have, but they win a couple playoff games against the cream of the crop. I think they earn their right to be independent, whatever they want to do.
I'm going to get Kurt's thoughts, and then I'm going to throw my plug Kurt's 2 cent show, and I'm going to have to throw my 2 cents in after Kurt goes.
I think it's a lot different now with 12 teams, right? With 4 teams, again, no. I mean, because you can't punish a team. I'm playing on Championship Sunday. They're sitting home and they go. But here's the thing, right? Like, they have to take a hit. Like, say, okay, if they're 12, if it's between them and if they're 11 and 12 and number 11 just lost the conference championship, then no, 12 or 13 and they don't go. If they're okay, do they just say Texas and Georgia, or Texas and Georgia's undefeated, Texas has 1 loss, they play in an SEC championship game? I'm not jumping Notre Dame over the loser of that SEC championship game. I mean, they didn't play a championship game, so they're always going to take a hit because they're not playing in the game. So I'm not going to say they shouldn't. If they're one of the best 12 teams, yes, but they always take a hit. Like, you don't play in a conference championship game, you don't move up. If Texas loses to Georgia in an SEC championship game, Texas is still above you. You didn't play. So, I mean, if you play, you might not even be in the tournament. So that's where they have to take a hit. They're eligible, but again, always taking a hit because things should be above them. Teams should be above them because they're not playing that championship game.
Let me just jump in for 10 seconds. The difference is they want Notre Dame in there for the market, for the ratings. They'll always want Notre Dame in there in that situation.
Jody, Notre Dame fans saying no, because we can't be a top 4 and have to play an extra game in the playoffs. Independents, this is from Keith, should have to schedule a minimum of 3 top 20 opponents to qualify for the playoffs. That's my answer. My answer is this.
Well, Kenny, let me just say before you answer, how could you not have? Jody makes a great point. How can you not have a team that's not a conference champion in the top 4 bye? I mean, they're not a conference champion. How can you, like you're saying, how can you say, exactly. How can you?
Right. My answer, Paul, and I'm not saying the coach, I'm not saying the players, the Notre Dame school, the athletic director, whoever schedules these things, the committee, they're frauds. 12-team schedule, you have 5 scheduled games against the ACC.
Yeah.
Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Virginia. You got one in the Big Ten. You got one in the ACC, one in the SEC, and then you got the Armed Forces and Miami, Ohio. That's a fraud schedule. I'm sorry.
Actually, two in the Big Ten.
Purdue, who's ranked, that's fine that you schedule Purdue. You're close.
Right.
That's fine. But you should be in the ACC, bottom line. You want to be an independent. There's two other independents with you, UConn and UMass. And then the Pac-12 is down to the Pac-2. They're independents in my book, too. Top two teams there play in a conference championship game, an independent championship. There's your 13th game. Then you can go to the playoffs, and if you're highly ranked, you can get your bye. This is a fraud way of getting into the playoffs. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm sorry, Jody. It's how I feel. When you schedule 5 games in the ACC and you're not playing a conference championship game, you're an ACC team.
Well, let me ask you guys this. What if they schedule 13 regular season games as opposed to 12? And now they're playing 13 games in the regular season.
Every team can really do that. Every team can really do that.
You know what, Paul? I'm going to come to your defense on Mr. Fraud Kirkpatrick, because he was the guy waving the flag, Carson. Remember? Cincinnati, right? Remember? Oh, if they win, they deserve it. So you see, you're contradicting yourself. I'm with you. I agree, but I've always been on
a team that's playing one less game.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
Cincinnati's playing Clifton High School. Come on. Come on.
If they schedule another ACC team or another big, what if they schedule Oregon as a Pac-10 Big Ten team? Does that make a difference?
Maybe. Let me get to the comments because they're coming in hot and heavy, and then we'll wrap this up because we do have a couple more confidence.
I'm with you, though, Kenny. I'm with you.
No, I understand what you guys are saying.
What have done in the playoffs? They've gotten destroyed every time they made the playoffs, right? Every time they did,
it's very true.
Right, Kurt? You talk about Cincinnati. Notre Dame got destroyed, too.
Absolutely. I'd be the first to say that. Yeah.
Jody saying, look at TCU. They started top 25, finished 5-7. Jody, if Notre Dame is sole undefeated team, you're okay with 5th in the playoffs? And Jody was saying they have no choice. That's the penalty for not being in a conference. And Mark saying they need to play Michigan again.
Carson, let me ask you this rapid fire. Do you think the top 4 teams with a bye have to be a conference champion? Have to win a conference championship?
Yes. I think if you're the top dog, you're in the conference, you're the champion, I think that holds more merit than a team like Notre Dame who has not won their conference championship. I mean, and a prime example of this,
and you can't lose it. And they can't lose it. That's even the bigger thing. They can't lose a conference championship.
Right. Alabama, Georgia, Alabama won. They're the champions. They get in the playoff, and then Georgia somehow gets left out, and I think Georgia smokes Notre Dame. So it's interesting. You could go both ways.
Keith saying independents are scared, pure and simple. Schedule some real opponents. Mark agrees. And Jody's like, scared of what? They play a top schedule. Not this year, Jody.
I would be the first to even say, you look at that schedule, it is a little cheesy to say it.
And Keith's on point
at
with
least.
This. Most independents couldn't hang with the old Pac-10 back in the day, if you remember that. All right, guys, I'm going to move into the ACC and Big 12, and then a couple quick questions. I'll do these a little faster. I'll give you a quick rundown of Miami. I wrote a couple things about Miami. So Mario Cristobal's back for his second year. Kurt talks about, we talked about Prime being a recruiter. Cristobal's a recruiter, cheerleader first, and then a head coach down here. Some of the mistakes he made last year. You remember all you do was down that ball. I forget who it was against.
God.
And you blow the game like that, and enough said. But it's time this year. Talk about a coach on the hot seat. It's time. I'm done with him if we don't make it to at least the ACC championship this year.
Kenny, the weather isn't the only thing in Florida and Miami that's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, his tush is hot. Sure. We got a couple transfers, couple names that you all might know from the Pac-12. Damian Martinez, the Oregon State running back, comes to Miami. I'm high on him, and I'm really liking Cam Ward to see what he can do down in Miami, because he was putting up numbers over there in the Pac-12 with Washington State. We also got a couple guys on defense as well. I think our offensive line is going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I think we could, ceiling, I think we could make it to the ACC championship and sneak into the playoffs. Floor can be really low. Floor can be a 500 team and a disaster, and maybe Mr. Deion Sanders comes to Miami next year. Stick it to Florida State. So that's how low the floor is, in my opinion, on Miami. So that was just a quick one on that. So I'm going to give you guys a couple.
He's saying 6 wins, Kenny.
Keith, I hope higher. But if it's 6 wins, Cristobal is out. I'm making a push for prime time, because another good recruiter, he would win Florida and want to stick it to Florida State for not high.
Kenny, you guys might have the best offense in the ACC this year.
I think we got great offense, and I think we're ranked 5 in the recruiting class. So Cristobal's a great recruiter. He just needs to coach. So let's hope he learns how to coach this year a little bit, and we go from there. Question for Carson. I got first one up. Florida State, Georgia Tech open up Saturday in Ireland. Carson, are you for or against college teams traveling to other countries? My opinion, an important game.
I like it. I think they're trying to broaden the college football market, international against technically week 0, because it's really the only game on Saturday. I don't have a problem with it. It is a conference game, yes, but, it's kind of on a neutral site, being all the way in Ivan.
Keith's giving me a bad time. No, Keith, I agree with you. 6 wins could be our floor in the departure of Cristobal. So I'm hoping for an ACC championship, but we're going to see. Kurt, new additions to the ACC: Cal, Stanford, SMU. Is this a conference that will be more competitive going forward, or will this be Florida State, Miami, Clemson top heavy for a few years?
I think it's going to be top heavy for a few years. I mean, Stanford. Stanford might give them a little game. If Stanford plays the old Stanford way and the old Harbaugh way and a physicality, I mean, there's not a lot of teams that do that, but I still think it'll be the Florida State, Miami, Clemson.
Like it, Kurt. Paul, I got one for you. I actually got one for you, and then I got the coaches for you too. So you're up for the next 2. Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, just to name a few, Paul. Does the ACC have some of the best rivalries in college football, or are these a little overrated?
If the football overall was better in the ACC, I'd say the rivalries would be good, but I think some of the rivalries in the SEC or even the Big Ten, the Ohio State, Michigans, the Georgia, Alabamas, Alabama, Auburns, probably rise a little above what the ACC has at this point. But again, if Va-Tech was better, if even Clemson was a little better than it used to be, maybe I would say they would be a little better.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Paul. Keith saying overseas games, someone has to pay for some NIL money the next generation. All right, Paul, I'm gonna put the coaches on the hot seat here for you.
Okay.
Let's start with the high one, guy who's been there a long time. Dabo Swinney, they're ranked 15, 170 and 43 in over 15 years at Clemson. He's not a fan of the transfer portal. If he doesn't start succeeding and getting this team to the playoffs, is he on the hot seat?
I would be extremely surprised if he's on the hot seat. I mean, the guy has been, before Saban left, him, Dabo and Kirby Smart, you can probably put a postage stamp as to who was the best coach out of those three. But I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
Keith saying, since this is the college football show, shout out to Reggie Bush for getting his Heisman back.
Oh,
Good old
great.
congrats to Reggie Bush for getting that back. I already gave you my thoughts on Mario Cristobal, so I won't ask you, Paul. In a different way, not on the hot seat, but a coach who may retire. Yes or no? Mac Brown, 35 years coaching. They're ranked 45 this year. They don't have high expectations. Is he going to hang them up?
You know, guys just love coaching. I mean, that's what he knows. I think unless he's somehow forced or there's a coup in at the school and they force him out, I think they'll let him coach as long as he wants to coach.
Fair enough. And I got two more for you. Carson knows this name. Pat Narduzzi, 65 and 50 at Pitt. 9 years there, 64. They're ranked 64. Not high expectations. They haven't been done well in the ACC for a few years now. So,
yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is interesting. Sometimes they'll lose games they should win, and win games they should lose. And it's just incredible how mediocre at times they are. I think there's some pressure on him to probably turn it around and be a little more consistent. And if they don't, I think he may be feeling his tush a little hot. If not this year, by next year.
All right. That's going to do it for ACC. I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to do Big 12 rapid fire, Kurt, and then we'll wrap up with a couple questions I got at the end since we're on the hour mark. Is that okay?
Yep. Jay Cook is checking in saying, what's up, bros? What's up?
There he is. What's up, Jay? Doing a little college football tonight. So the Big 12, rapid fire, Kurt. We'll answer these questions rapid fire. Kurt, does Deion Sanders leave Colorado after this year with Shedeur graduating?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he coach next year for everybody? I'll start with Kurt again.
I think Miami's very intriguing. But I could also see him, I think Miami or a high, a Tennessee, but don't be shocked if he takes a year off with, his son and Hunter and those guys going to the NFL and reevaluating. I mean, does Jerry Jones give him I don't know. I don't think he's going to stay in Colorado, especially when his son's gone.
Okay. Carson, could Utah or Arizona, one of those teams, win the Big 12 this year?
Yeah, I love Arizona. I think they're underrated. I think they're going to surprise and shock a lot of people this year. I love Arizona.
And Paul, 2 huge departures, Texas, Oklahoma, 4 additions. Just mentioned Utah, Arizona, also Colorado we mentioned, and Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
Underrated conference this year, or is it a little, these teams a little overrated?
I think it's a little top heavy. I think, with Utah and Arizona, I throw in Kansas State, but a lot of the other schools are nah. But I don't think overall up and down the conference is that overall that good. Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you. Who was that?
Kurt.
Just looking for my notes. We're going to wrap it up here. I got, there we go. All right, Kurt, we got some questions to wrap
Keith
the
is
show
saying
up.
Jay Cook dropping 99 stars. Whoop, whoop. Thank you,
Hey, what's
Jay.
up, Jay? Thank you for that. We didn't. It's hard for us to see it on the restream, so we do go back and we check them out. But thank you, Jay, for that.
Thank you, Keith, saying bless you, Kurt. Thank you, Keith.
All right. We're going to start. We got a couple of quick ones here for you. So, Kurt, I'll start with you. I see you first on the screen. Heisman Trophy winner this year.
Dylan Gabriel, Oregon.
You stole my thunder. I can't believe we're going the same route. I'm going Dylan Gabriel because he's transferring from Oklahoma, and I think Oregon's got a good chance of winning the Big Ten. If Oregon wins the Big Ten, that is a big factor in him getting the Heisman. So I'm going to look at his odds after we go off the air and maybe put some.
And you know what else I think is important, Kenny, too, is think about it, right? Like, you always look at like a school like Bo Nix didn't win it, but Bo Nix was a finalist, right?
Yeah.
So like that's out there. There's just like the Oklahoma thing when they had Murray, and it's like when that school's out there and they have somebody like, and they're going to be good. It's like they're already got the hype to get him there. I like him a lot this year.
I like it too. Roy Osborne saying, "Hey there, guys. He jumped off one podcast and came to another after a long day. Thank you for always being a supporter of ours." I'm going to ask Carson this one, Jody. How long until Chip Kelly takes over at Ohio State?
Wow. If Ryan Day doesn't meet expectations soon and fast, it could happen within the next 2, 3, 4 years, I would say. That's an interesting candidate. But I think Ryan Day's he's good there at Ohio State. I really think so.
I agree. Keith's going Sam Ellinger. Michael Ronquillo, Kurt saying hello. Bo Nix is now the starter. Let's go. Evening, Kurt, Kenny, Carson, and Paul.
Let's go, Michael.
Michael,
Let's go.
Kurt and Jen are doing their Broncos show at 8 p.m. Mountain time, 7 p.m. West Coast time. You're out there in Arizona, so 7 o'clock sharp. Kurt will be on with Jen. Paul, you're Heisman winner.
I'll give you 3 quick ones. I agree with you guys. Dylan Gabriel is my number 1. Carson Beck, number 2. But I'll give you sort of a sleeper. Transfer from Kansas State. He's going to be the quarterback of Ohio State. Will Howard, my 3rd quarterback. That could be a sleeper pick. Nice.
Carson, Heisman.
Yeah, value play. The man that broke Kurt's heart last year, Mr. Jalen Milroe.
Oof.
Nice.
He's not bothering Kurt tonight. He's got a Bo Nix jersey on. It's not bothering Kurt tonight.
No,
all right, I'll go back to Kurt. Top 3 quarterbacks, not necessarily Heisman Trophy quarterback, Kurt, but your top 3 quarterbacks that you think can transfer into the not just your top 3 college quarterbacks, not NFL.
You know what? I'm going to do it how you were going to ask me. Okay. I'm going to tell you if I was an NFL exec, these are the 3 quarterbacks I would take in college football on the next level. Okay. I have 3 honorable mentions real quick. Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, and Brady Cook from Missouri. But ready? These are the 3 right now I'm taking. And Kenny and Paul. Get
Here
your
we
pen
go.
and write it down because
Here
you're
we
taking
go.
one of these guys. Because your guys not. Your guys not.
Wait,
Oh.
it took him almost an hour to get to that, right, Kenny?
Worst contract in football, that guy's not. So take notes. Number 3, Shedeur Sanders. I like
Oh my God.
not a runner. Quarterbacks, hey, father's in the NFL quarterback. The kid just makes plays. Number 2, you guys are going to say crazy. And I might even have him number 1. And he doesn't even start. It's Arch Manning. The kid's a stud.
He's not eligible to be drafted.
Trevor Lawrence.
But I'm saying just in college football. And number 1, Kenny and Paul, this is the Bo Nix of next year. Take him. He's smart. He's accurate. He's mobile. He's won big games. He's played in the SEC with the 2nd pick. The New York Giants select Carson Beck. Do it. Carson Beck, Arch Manning, Shedeur Sanders. Bang.
Can I go next?
I'm gonna let Carson go next, then we'll go.
All right.
Yeah, I think I gotta throw Dylan Gabriel in the mix. I love Quinn Ewers a lot. I think he's gonna be a beast. I think that's who my national champion is. I think Texas is they're gonna get it done this year. And then I hate to say it, I agree with Paul. With Kurt, with Shedeur Sanders. I think the kid's legit. I think he's gonna break out this year. He's got a much better O-line. And I think Shedeur Sanders, I mean, if you look at DraftKings right now, he's the favorite to go number 1 overall. So got to say Shedeur Sanders.
Mr. Rosen.
Let me just say this. I'll give you my 3. I would have a better chance of quarterbacking the New York Football Giants than Shedeur Sanders does. I'm telling you that right now. Anyway, my top 3. Carson Beck. I agree with you, Kurt. I think he is an excellent quarterback. Whether he's going to be there at number 2 for our Kenny and my football team, I don't know. Dylan Gabriel, also right up there, number 2. And I'll give you another quarterback that I think he's going to make an impact this year. He was good last year. I think he's going to be very good this year. Jackson Dart, quarterback at the University of Ole Miss.
I like it.
I like it. Keith sending stars, guys. 100 stars for the K&K Sports Show. 10 for each of you on the screen. Great show to all of you. Go K&K.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks,
Keith,
Jay.
thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.
Keith. Thank you.
Thanks,
Keith.
Keith.
We'll, be sure to, recognize everybody that does that. Mine real quick. Dylan Gabriel. I think the kid's going to be special in Oregon. Remember, it's college. We're not transferring to the NFL. I think he's going to be the best college quarterback this year. Dylan Gabriel's going to get the Oregon Ducks to the Big Ten championship, and we're going to get to that in a second. Second, I'm going Shedeur Sanders. I hate to disagree with Paul, but if the Giants are in that position to pick and Shedeur Sanders is on that board, Paul, the Giants were very interested in Jaden Daniels this year, so I could see them being interested in Shedeur Sanders. In all joke, and we'll get into that debate another day, but.
It's a package deal, unfortunately, with him.
And number 1, I like Quinn Ewers. I think it's his year, and Texas could be. If they weren't in the SEC, I would have them going to the championship. But there's so much competition in that SEC that it may hurt. But I think he's still going to be the best quarterback in football this year. Carson Beck on the outside looking in 4th for me. Real quick, let's do. We're not going to do head coaches because we're running very late. Kurt, your semifinal and your national champs.
All right, I'm going out on a limb a little bit, guys. Well, I'm going to take Georgia. No, that's not out on a limb. I'm going to take Texas. That's not out on a limb. I am going to go out on a limb on these 2. I'm taking my boy Dabo in Clemson. I think he bounces back big time, and he made a statement of, you better buy stock in Clemson now. So I think he does feel a little pressure, and I think he gets him back in. And I'm telling you, I am high on Utah this year. This team, Mr. Winningham, he runs it. He plays defense. Cam Rising's back. And I'm going to go Georgia over Utah for the national title. Georgia's still the king. Georgia, Utah, Texas, Clemson. I'm going to go Georgia over Utah for the title.
Nice.
I'll go Paul next.
All right. I'm also going Georgia. I'm buying I'm drinking the Kool-Aid for Ohio State. I think they will get back in there. They'll win the Big Ten, but I think Oregon will also get in there. And there's always seems to be a surprise team, those TCUs or Cincinnati's. Here's my surprise team. I think another SEC team is going to make it, but not Alabama, not Auburn. Ole Miss is going to make the Final Four, and they're going to sneak in there as a surprise team. I love Lane Kiffin. I mentioned Jackson Dart. I think they have an opportunity to possibly go deep into the playoffs. So those are my 4. And the national championship is going to be Kirby Smart again and the Georgia Bulldogs.
Carson's going to like this comment from Michael Ronquillo. Everybody's friend, Michael Ronquillo. I like saying that about Mike. Everybody's friend. He follows a lot of the podcasts, and he's a friend of all of ours. So everybody's friend, Michael Ronquillo. Quarterback Noah Fafita from Arizona will be the dark horse quarterback in college football this year.
Fafita's a beast.
Yeah, your semifinals and national champs, Carson.
Wow, yeah, this is tough. Yeah, why not? I'll throw Paul's Notre Dame in the Final Four.
Wow, that's a shock.
I'm going to say Notre Dame is going to face Oregon, and then on the other side, it's going to be Texas and Georgia. And then I'm going to say Georgia. I'm going to say Georgia wins. I'm going to say Georgia's champs.
And Keith correcting himself, and I think I knew what you meant, Keith, too. He's saying Ellinger earlier, but he meant Ewers, one of those quarterbacks. Yeah, Ellinger.
Right.
He's on the Colts, isn't he?
Yeah, we saw him play against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, Keith. You saw him play against the Broncos. That's why. My final four. Hey, I got Dylan Gabriel winning the Heisman. I got Oregon going to the Big Ten championship. I got Oregon going to the Final Four. I got Georgia in there like everybody else. Kurt, something wrong. Me and you both are high on Utah. That's scary. So
Put the money in.
I got Utah in there coming out of the Big 12, and I got an SEC team that's going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be that team that's like the 7, 8, 9 seed that wins a couple games, gets momentum. Best wide receiver in football, Luther Burden III. Cook, the quarterback. Missouri gets to the Final Four.
Good.
I got Oregon over Georgia in the final. Oregon's your national champs.
Nice.
All right, boys. Keith wants to know where Michigan. Michigan's not in the playoffs. Any in the playoffs for anybody?
No.
Maybe 12.
Barely. Yeah.
All right, boys. Anything else? We're going to wrap it up. We went a little long tonight. I know Kurt's got to get ready for his highly exciting Bo Nix show.
Quick question. You mentioned Luther Burden III. Kurt, do you know who Luther Burden III's grandfather was?
I do not.
Look in Nick history. Luther Burden III, his grandfather was Luther Ticky Burden, first round pick by the Knicks back in the mid to late 70s.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Go check that out.
And for Kurt, Broncos make the playoffs, or Utah make the championship? More likely, Kurt.
I think both are likely.
Broncos make playoffs. More likely.
Yep. Yeah, that's tough to get to a national championship game.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, Kurt. I'm gonna pass it off to you. We're gonna get some final thoughts in. Miss Pearl's back. We're about to sign off for a little bit, Miss Pearl. Kurt and Jen will be back 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yep. October 22nd, Knicks at Boston, right out of the gate. October 25th. Listen, I don't want to. It rhymes with plum, but it ends with bags. They're coming into Indiana with the cheerleader, the Olympian cheerleader Halliburton, and I will be there. So I'm pumped about that. And boys, it's Bo time. We got him. We got the quarterback. I don't want to hear any more of we're going to have, what's the word, Kenny? I can't even think of the word. What do they call him? The quarterback that everybody wanted?
Bridge.
The bridges. No more. It's over. None of that garbage. We got our guy. Seattle. Let's go. And we'll see you guys next week. Mr. Carson Shear.
Yeah, good show as always, boys. Love talking sports with you all. Shout out to everybody tuning in to watch the stream, the college football special. And we got Wits and Wagers coming up, man. 2-leg parlay. Knicks NBA champion, Detroit Lions Super Bowl winner. $5 bet wins you $655.
Wow.
Let's go.
And Carson, we got a couple new people out there. Please tell them about the Carson Shear Show, where they can find you when you're not.
Yeah, if you guys want to check out my sports reactions, I cover pretty much any news that happens, mostly Detroit sports stuff. But NFL's coming up, college football's coming up, so going to give it my reactions to the big games. Yeah, anywhere, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the Carson Shear Show.
Keith wants to know if you're a Stevie Nicks fan, being your Knicks guy, Kurt.
Oh, what a combination. What a combination. I'm any kind of Knicks fan now. Paul.
Great show, guys. Hey, is there anybody that does a better college football preview than the K&K show? I don't think so. Anyway, fun show. Always a lot of laughs. Great to have everybody back, the Fab Four, and we'll see you guys. Thank you again, everyone, for comments, criticisms, questions. Always great.
And last but not least, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Well, Kurt, why? I'm going to put you on the spot. Why is it only you and Jen that get to go to the Knicks game? Why can't the whole K&K Sports Show go to the opening night Knicks game?
Eh?
You and Jen host us. We do a live K&K from the
Go
Garden.
ahead.
There you go.
I said to Jen, I am gonna be like, I've never been like bad at a game. Like I might be that because I can't stand this team. I can't stand Halliburton. I don't know. And I kept saying to Jen, please make that opener Indiana. Make it Indiana. Make it Indiana. And they made it Indiana. So
Did you see Halliburton's
only a
comment?
short ride up north from Paul.
Yeah.
It's a further ride for
true.
me, and it's a short flight for Carson. Why don't we all do it, Kurt? You host us, and we spend a couple of days with you. Jen.
I'll tell you, you're not going to spend a couple of days. You're going to spend a lot of money. Those tickets are going to be.
No, Kate said love all the personalities, but thank you guys. We'll see everybody next week, and of course, go check out Kurt and Jen. Let's Talk Broncos, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Eastern.
All right, boys.
See you guys.
Have a good one.
See you
Have a
guys.
good night.